Okay, welcome back to Tiny Grimes Games. This time I'm going to bring you a deck, what I'm calling your first competitive deck. So this is especially important if you're new to the SoulForge scene, and especially if you've just gotten the Humble Bundle and you're trying to figure out, this game seems fun, but how do I make a competitive deck? This is the episode for you. All right, so first I'm going to talk about a few things that are unique about SoulForge that impact deck building in SoulForge. So one of the biggest differences between SoulForge and other games is that because cards level, and because you only get to play a small amount of cards each of the levels, most of your cards are going to remain underleveled. So you can't just take 30 great cards that get really good over time and put them in your deck. That deck is not going to work. You need cards that both, you have some cards that you level and they improve over time, and these are the cards that you are hoping to draw on every level and can continue to play. And then at the same time, you need cards that function really well for what we call underleveled. So on player level 2, drawing a level 1 card and having it still be functional even though it's underleveled. And this will happen in SoulForge where you'll get these hands where you just don't have any of your leveled cards and you're thinking, oh my, what am I going to do now? And if you don't have any cards that can function in that spot, then you're in big trouble. So this deck is especially designed to be able to take advantage of that. So the cards that you're going to want to be able to level with this deck, the main one is Thundersoar. This guy is a phenomenal card. You should have 2 of them if you bought the Humble Bundle, and he grows very quickly. On level 1 he's okay, but on level 2 and 3 he is pretty unbelievable. If you're able to buff him especially, he becomes really strong, really fast. I highly recommend him as a card, and that's why I have 2 of him in here. I would put 3 of them in here if you happen to own a third one. The other 2 cards that this deck is built around are, 1, the Bramblewood Tracker. This guy is really important because he allows you to put a lot of bodies on the board quickly. So if you look at his level 1, you're going to say, this card is garbage. And that's okay. You can have cards like this that have bad level 1s and get quite a bit better on levels 2 and 3. It's how this game works. You can't have all cards like this or you'll get crushed in player level 1 and player level 2 when you only draw this card. But when he becomes leveled, he has consistent, which means you are guaranteed to get him. So if you are able to get him leveled on level 1, you will see him on level 2. And when you do, you're going to get an extra creature. And you're going to be able to use this ability to buff your Thundersoar, to buff other guys, to put out good creatures, and to be able to spread the board. And this synergizes really well with the other heroic in this deck, the Disian Brood Queen. The Brood Queen is quite good because she is your removal option. Essentially, especially in a metagame where we're going to see people growing Thundersoars, you need a card that can just straight out remove another card, and Disian Brood Queen does this. When she comes into play, she puts into play another card, a Brood Fang, so you essentially get a 2-for-1 there. And then you can activate her to destroy a card such as your Brood Fang to blow up their amazing card like a Thundersoar. The problem with this deck is that it is geared toward the newer player, uh, but it does have these 6 heroics that you might not have. So in the meantime, if you don't have the Disian Brood Queen, a card you can play, which I consider to be substantially worse, but still functional, is a Spirit Cleave. And this is a removal card that will just straight out remove the card with the highest health among the creatures in play. And this is going to be probably their Thundersoar or that card that they've put a bunch of cards into to grow out of control. If they're not doing that, it's not that big of a deal. You probably won't even play your Spirit Cleave. One of the cool things about this game, you don't have to play all your cards. You have all these cards in your deck that fulfill roles. And because you're only playing 2 out of 5 cards every time, you can have cards that you just say, well, I'm only going to play this against a certain matchup. Okay, so let's go through the rest of the deck. I put Zemus in here. Zemus isn't really a great fit for the deck, other than just the fact that he's a great card and you have him since you got the Humble Bundle. So you might as well put him in. You might as well get some use out of him. He is a high power card. If you get him leveled, he becomes very powerful. Some of the other cards, most of these just function well now as underleveled cards. So one of the best underleveled cards is Shardbound Invoker. Let's say you get him in play with a tracker. He comes into play, gives you a body, and then he buffs somebody up, like, say, your Thundersoar. Speaking of buffing Thundersoars, we have a couple cards specifically designed to do that. We have the Lycian Shard, who just immediately makes your Thundersoar +6/+6. So let's say you put a Thundersoar down in front of a creature. It takes 4 damage. Now it's a 4/8 on level 1. You buff it. Now it's a 10-14 with breakthrough on level 1. That is really hard to deal with. It's going to take your opponent multiple cards, multiple turns to be able to handle that Thunder Sword. He'll be pushing through damage. It's an incredibly powerful combination. Another card to buff your Thunder Sword is the Discian Siphon. If you don't have Discian Siphons, you can put Enrage in for the time being, but Enrage is substantially worse than Discian Siphon. So I would highly recommend you play Siphon. Another card to buff Thunder Sword and buff your board as well is Ferocious Roar. Now, Ferocious Roar is certainly not something you need to put in, but with the Humble Bundle, you should have it. And it can be useful. I mean, when you play the tracker and you fill the board and you have another play, you just roar the board and bust everybody. It can be very useful. A card that can definitely come out if you find that you are acquiring more cards for your collection that fit in is the Oxidon Spitter. He's only in there as a one-of, and it's this, what I was talking about before, where you can have cards in SolForge that are highly situational. So in the last metagame, people were growing robots and putting tons of armor on him. You just chuck this guy in, pow, the guy loses his armor. A robot without his armor, not that useful anymore. And this is the same thing with Tangle, another one-of. Essentially, it kills a creature with mobility, and it kills a level above as well. So the level 1 kills a level 1 or 2. So you don't even have to level it, and you're still killing a creature with mobility. Very powerful, very useful. Howl of Zith, another one-of that is even more situational. This is a late game card. It does not level at all. It's static. So on level 3, you can play it and just pow, do 12 damage to their face, 12 damage of healing, and it's quite a powerful card indeed. And then a number of cards that you don't really want to level. So for instance, the Tangle Sprout. Level 1 is phenomenal. Level 2, not that great. Level 3, atrocious. So you need to be very careful about cards like this. These are not in there to give you that immediate board presence. They're more to be able to play off the tracker in player level 2, or if you get that hand where you get stuck in player level 2 and you don't have your level 2s, you still have a reasonable card. The same thing holds true pretty much for the Lurker, who does level reasonably well, but it's still not a card we're seeking to level. And it's most common with this guy, the Deep Branch Prowler, who's basically just a terrible card at 7/7/8/8/9/9, but his level 1 is pretty darn good. You might ask me, why one Prowler? And essentially, he's a 4th copy of Tangle Sprout, just a little bit worse. Branch Weaver Druid is in there, just simply to clog lanes. Sometimes you need to clog an extra lane. It also helps with your Discian Siphon, gives you one more guy to blow up. Maybe you'll end up buffing it with your Showerbound Invoker. It all synergizes well. So that's the deck. Essentially, your goal is to be leveling every time you see it, your tracker. You don't even think about it. You just level it because the whole goal is to play him. The next thing would probably be to level your Brood Queens and also leveling your Thunder Swords. And then your 4th person to level would be Zemus if you get a chance. And those are really the only cards in the entire deck you have to level. Everything else is situational, figuring out when do I need this, what card should I be playing. And that's what makes SolForge so fun, is that there's so much situational stuff going on and trying to figure out what's the right card to level against what matchup. So we're going to go ahead and play a couple of games with the deck so we can get an idea of what we want to do, how we want to play this deck. So we'll go ahead and I guess we'll take it into the random queue here. And this might take a while because it might have a hard time finding someone who makes their moves, but that's okay because we're going to talk with quite a bit of depth about how one plays SolForge and how to make plays in SolForge. So like I talked about, a lot of SolForge is figuring out a matchup and what is not just the best move for now, which is important, but what's the best move for later as well. So we're trying to juggle the two. Okay, so let's see if we can get an opponent. Dun 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 dun. Random opponent, nobody. Come on, randomness. Come on up. Makes for a much less exciting video when there's sense of dead time while waiting to find an opponent in the random queue. Alright, but like I said, the cards we're going to really focus on leveling are the tracker. You can make some really insane plays where on player level 2 you can go like tracker into a 7/8 body with a Thunder Sword and just completely own the board in sudden and impressive fashion. And your opponent is just reeling. Okay, so this is a really tough first turn for us because we have 3 cards we want to level, and we only get to play 1 because we're on the play. And like I said, tracker, level, tracker. It's kind of tempting here to level a Brood Queen because it is our removal, and so that's a little dicey, not getting either of those. We have 1 more, we have 3 in the deck, but there's a chance we don't even see the 3rd one. So if he's playing a deck that builds a really big guy, this is one of those interesting things in Soulforge where this could be essentially a game-losing mistake not getting a Brood Queen leveled. But at the same time, we're getting our tracker level, who is utterly critical for this deck. Interesting. So he's looking to make this progenitor big really fast. So we have a really good answer to it in Dissonant Siphon. So we're going to be able to buff our tracker, which will kill Oros and outright kill progenitor. And then we still have another play. And this is kind of tough because Leafkin would be the best play to the board if his body didn't grow so poorly. I'll probably play a Lurker. I'm actually even tempted to play a second Dissonant Siphon just to level it because it's such a great card, especially since we know part of our goal is to get our Thundersaurs to be really big. I'm actually going to think a moment and decide whether I want to Siphon because it's so powerful. Leveled and maybe becomes a 5 and then it becomes a 7. That's a big Thundersaur really fast. I don't think we will. I think we're going to put some pressure on the board with this Lurker, who, you know, his attack at least gets really high, even if his defense stays or his health stays really low. Okay, this is an interesting hand where we really only want to level Zemus. We don't want to level Tangle Sprout. We don't really want to level Lurker. We can't level Invoker. It doesn't work if you level it. Shard, if we play it, it goes away. It has overload, so we don't get to level that either. So we're gonna play Zemus, and then we're gonna see what he plays. And most likely we'll stick the Lurker in front of something to block it. Like for instance, if he plays an Oros that's a 6/6, we won't be too upset playing a card that will almost certainly remove it. So we'll have to figure out what he decides to do. Okay, so he is playing a 7/7, which isn't too bad for us. We can remove that with our 8/4. So that works pretty well. And level a Zemus. So we've leveled now a Zemus and a Tracker, which is really good. And he has leveled an Avatar and a Reveler. Let's see, what else have we leveled here? Oh, he leveled an Oros, which is really good. Leafkin is not very good moving forward leveling. Leafkin gets really good on level 1 if it can run away. Okay, so he's running like an entirely grow-wide deck. He's got Reveler, he's got Lifeblood Dryad, so we need to be clued into this immediately that anytime there's this question of like, do we push or do we trade, we need to focus heavily on trading because we need to get his guys off the board so he can't take advantage of what he's trying to do with his deck. We're obviously going to level the tracker. That's not even up for debate. The question is, what are we going to do after that? We can't level the Invokers, period. They become worthless if we do. The Prowler is so bad if we level it, it's almost as if we didn't level it. So the question becomes, do we want to put a Prowler on the board to prevent him from growing wide a little bit better? Or do we want to Roar to improve Roar, which grows a little bit on level 2 but becomes really good level 3? And I think we're going to play the Prowler. It pains me. It really pains me to play this Prowler. But I think we're going to try as much as possible to prevent him from really running away with the board here. And look, so Soulforge just punished us severely, right? It went, you're going to level a Prowler? Really? You're really going to level a Prowler? You know what? Here you go. Here you go, man. Congratulations. It's yours. You can have a Prowler. So I always find it quite humorous when this happens in Soulforge. That it basically punishes you for making a bad decision. I mean, it wasn't really a bad decision because we didn't have a lot of choice in the matter, but it wasn't a decision that we wanted to make. So what's funny here is Invoker's actually probably just straight out better than the Prowler. It comes in as a 7/8, and it levels much better. So we're gonna definitely play the Invoker, and we're gonna play it in front of the Thundersaur. And we're actually going to siphon onto the Invoker off of the Thundersaur, just to make sure it dies, and we'll be left with a pretty good body on the board as well. Again, to try to make it so that he doesn't get to do what he wants to do, which is flood the board. And look at this. We have a pretty good turn here. So we get to go. We got our tracker, which is going to lead us into a Thundersaur. By the way, we didn't see a Thundersaur level 1, so we didn't draw very well on level 1, missing all 3 Thundersaurs and missing all our Brood Queens because we had the 2 on the first hand. So we had basically close to our worst case scenario draw-wise level 1. We still might be okay here because he hasn't leveled cards that are all that scary either. He got the 1 Thundersaur down, and that is scary. But his level 2 is really not very good. So we're going to be able to play Tracker into Thundersaur, and I think we're going to Roar. We'll get our Thundersaur going a little bit, and I think we're going to put the Thundersaur in front of the Delver to give it a chance to potentially get somewhat big before it dies. We could play a Brood Queen, but it's underleveled now. It's behind the times. It's only going to be able to remove weak level 1 creatures, so we're not really all that excited about it. This plays pretty good. It gives us really 3 threats on the board to his 0. And this is the power of Tracker. If you see this, we now get to play Tracker. If he's somehow able to remove something, Tracker into a guy and then another guy. This is where having something like Siphon or Shard or Roar would be really nice. So the sequencing there was a little out of whack. If we could have traded, say, the Roar for that Lurker or something, that would have been much better. But unfortunately, we don't get to dictate that well the cards that we're going to receive. So what I think we're going to end up doing is playing like Tracker in 3, put Invoker into buffing the Thundersaur, and then overwriting the Invoker. And this is something that you're going to have to get used to in SolForge. You have to overwrite cards sometimes. It seems like this is a little bit easier of a spot to find out or to see how obvious the play is because there's not a lot of other choices. What are we just going to discard? Which, by the way, you can't just discard a card to level up something some new players don't know. But we're not going to. We're just going to go ahead and do this. This works pretty well. I believe he does 2. Yeah, so we don't mind if Oros does a little bit of damage. That's fine. We don't mind if they trade. If you could have buffed him 4, and he might be able to with like a Roar or something, but then that's one of his plays. And we have all these threats he has to deal with. I don't think he's going to be able to withstand this, which is pretty good. I mean, this is almost a worst case scenario draw-wise for us, and it was fine because we have so many good underleveled cards that worked out really well for us. All right, so there you go. So that's how this deck plays. Play your trackers, flood the board, and hopefully steamroll your opponent. So there you go. Let's go ahead and try one more. I don't know if it'll go as well as that one did. That guy did not have a very strong deck, though. And that's, you know, it's one of the things with this game, a lot of his matchups. And that one wasn't even necessarily a matchup. It was just he was playing generally weak cards. He got his Thundersaur down in level 1. And it could have been like this. Maybe he could have been playing like us. Like, he probably looked at our deck and went, a Prowler? You just played a Prowler? Wow, you have weak cards in your deck. And so he may have had the same situation where he had plenty of strong cards, he just wasn't finding them. And while we're waiting for this opponent, I'll show you guys a couple other builds of this deck I have. I'll show you my final build of the deck. What you want to work towards is being able to use Duskmaw. And this card is just ridiculously powerful. So this is the version I bring into tournament queues and do very well with. Duskmaw is a card that is a removal card. So he takes the place of, or supplements really, the Brood Queen. So you can put him down. You put down his extra spell that he comes with, this free -1/-1 spell, and you kill a creature across from him. And you might think, well, what is the likelihood you're going to draw these together? Well, that's a great point. And that's where this card comes in, the Soothsayer Hermit. So let's say you've seen that free spell, and it was early in the player level. And now you have a Duskmaw in your hand, and you have Hermit in your hand. Well, guess what? You play Duskmaw in front of their big giant creature. Then you play Hermit. You go in, you grab your tendrils, and then you play it, and you kill the guy. So Hermit is incredibly effective. Another card that is at the heroic level that I didn't include in that deck because it's at the heroic level is Aetherphage is really strong. He comes down, he just pulls a spell from their hand, so it's really quite impressive. And those are really the big changes to the deck. Oros is also just a very solid, powerful card. Heals you up, has a big body under-leveled and on-level that can be useful. And Weirwood Patriarch helps buff your little guys. If you notice, I only have 2 Brood Queens in this version of the deck because Duskmaw is even better at removing than Brood Queen. Brood Queen's just in there in case you don't draw your Duskmaws and the Tendrils on time. Okay, so here we go. This game will be interesting. We have our Brood Queen right out of the gate, which is great. But we don't have any other cards we really want to play. These are cards we want to play underleveled other than the Siphon. So we're just going to play the Siphon, and we're going to be okay with that. The question becomes, where do we put the drop from the Brood Queen? We're going to put it out of range of the Maiden. Knowing that he may get a Windweaver, and it may be irrelevant. This guy may have a move 2 next turn. That's okay. If the Broodfang dies, so be it. We're going to buff our Brood Queen and make the Brood Queen pretty hard to kill. It's out of range of Burnout, which is a card that most Tempe's decks will be using. It does 8 damage directly, so you really need to be aware of this as you're making your plays. Oh, this hand's really good for us. If this Brood Queen stays alive, we get a new Brood Queen with an offspring. We can blow up that offspring with our old Brood Queen and play our tracker, which is what we wanted to play. So we're going to be getting all of the cards we want leveled. Now if we can just hit a couple more trackers and hit a Thundersaur or 2, well, bam, we're going to be really in business. That Frost Maiden is definitely a little bit annoying, but not too bad. The nice thing is the offspring from this new Brood Queen would actually kill the Maiden just from poison. So do 1 damage, and then the poison damage will kill it. But I think we're going to stick the Brood Queen there because we want it to be out of range of that Frost Fang Maiden. If we're not just... we're a little bit torn here to figure out which card do we want to kill with Brood Queen. Do we kill the card in lane 1 or lane 2? I'm not really sure what the answer is, to be honest. Maybe better... if we kill the Maiden, the problem is, or the Bizarak Frost Maiden, the Frost Fang Maiden walks over, does 3 when it walks into the lane, and then it'll do 4 more for a total of 7, and it doesn't die to our Brood Queen. So it's kind of a tricky spot, but I do think we blow up the Frost Maiden. We're going to do it like this. It's important to remember to get every little last bit of damage you can. So for instance, if we were going to blow up this guy, we would want to really think carefully about battling first. We wouldn't want to in this spot, but it's important to try to make sure you push through every bit of damage before you do your moves. So we're going to blow this up to kill him. This Brood Queen will take him out, and then we're going to play a tracker here. We're not going to play it next to him because we don't want him to move over and be able to get initial damage on him. So we're going to put him right in front of him. Alright, so this is a pretty good board state for us. So let's see what he can end up doing. And we have our Tangle, so and since it works against under-leveled creatures as well, or against over-leveled creatures, it's going to be really good. When we draw it on player level 2, it can be really powerful. So we're kind of excited about where this game is going. If we can get another tracker, like this hand's kind of a bust for us. These are not cards we want to see right now or want to level. But if our next hand comes through for us, then we'll be set up pretty well for player level 2. Right now we went from being set up amazingly well in player level 2 to being set up pretty well in player level 2. That was kind of a decimating move against us, but we should be okay. We'll be able to take out Korok with the Lurker, and we'll be able to use the Dryad or the Branchweaver Druid to take out the other guy and still have half a body left. The question is, why is he running Epidemic in this deck? And you need to be really thoughtful of the cards they're playing. So if he's playing a card that shrinks in the Bizarak Maiden, and he's playing Epidemic, that's not coincidence. So something fishy is going on here. He might be playing something like Soul Reap. So we have to be really careful that he may be stealing any really small bodies that we leave around. That may be his thought process. But we don't have a lot of choice here. I mean, we could just not play the Branch Weaver and play another Lurker. But I don't want to do that. I want to have the body here for our Brood Queens. So we're going to do it like this. But we're a little bit wary. And the other thing is if he steals a 1/1, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, actually, he would get both halves. So maybe we should have thought about that. Here, I mean, we've got 3 cards to play. We've got Zemus, we've got Tangle, and we've got Siphon. So all 3 of them are going to be useful depending on... Yeah, he really is all in on Epidemic. I don't really know what's happening right now. It's quite fascinating. We didn't see another Thundersaur at all again. So there's 2 games in a row where we didn't see a single Thundersaur. We went from having a really great start to player level 2 to having a terrible finish. And what I mean is being set up for player level 2. So we got 2 Brood Queens and a Tracker, but only 1 Tracker out of our 3. 0 Thundersaurs. All 3 Thundersaurs are in the last 10, or all 2. It's terrifying. We might be in some trouble this game. All right, we're going to play Zemus. That's a good card to get leveled. Now the question becomes, we're thinking about Tangle or Siphon. Now Tangle works under level, so what I mean is it can take out level 2s when we draw it next level. So we don't have to play it here. With that in mind, I think we'll just Siphon. Because Siphon works pretty darn well on level. It gets stronger, whereas Tangle doesn't really get stronger. The place it gets stronger is if we had missed it here in player level 2. That would be really good in player level 3. But we found it, so hopefully he plays a leveled card with mobility. That's what we're just fingers crossed. Come on, get one of your big answers that you leveled. There we go. That's exactly the card we wanted to see. His biggest, scariest dude. Oh my goodness, he got them both. All right, we might not have wanted to see both. We're happy to see one. We can actually kill both of them thanks to our Siphon. Yeah, so we'll go Tangle on him. And then we'll just Siphon over here. And our level 1 Zemus kills his level 2 creature and lives. So he saw 2 of his level 2s. I mean, that should make us happy that he saw 2 of them already, which means he's going to see less level 2s moving forward. And we only saw 1, and we're able to handle his 2 level 2s with no problem. That was really one of the great coups about leaving Tangle under leveled. Oh, he saw another level 2. So he's drawing really well. 3 level 2s out of 4 cards. That's really impressive. So we'll see if he can continue this type of drawing. I think we're going to end up having the Thundersaur take his spot on the board. We're going to go here, and we're going to shard him. And we're going to make him have to draw some more good cards to kill him. Because that Frostfang Maiden will only trade with him, which isn't so bad for us. Mainly because he's seen so many 2s, it makes us think, well, we should have the advantage now because we know we have a Tracker coming. It has consistent. It will come. We're probably going to draw some more 2s, and we did. We draw our Zemus. Zemus is going to be amazing. So Zemus will actually trade with Maiden if he doesn't move Maiden over. There's a really good chance he will move Maiden over, though. If he moves her over, that's 11. That takes us down to 6. Oh, actually, oh, that's 15. Is he going to be able to do more? He does. Oh, nope. He group healed. Interesting. So he has just enough to be able to kill it. That's unfortunate. But that's another level 2. So that's out of 6 cards. He's played 4 level 2s. That's a little bit terrifying, to be honest. I mean, he's really finding all of his on-level cards. We're going to play our on-level cards here. There's actually some debate here. What's better in my brain, Lurker or Tracker? I'm kind of tempted just to play the Tracker. The problem with spreading the board against this deck is not going to be quite as good because when these Frostfang Maidens move around, they're actually killing guys. So getting a level 1 guy, which is what I would get out of Tracker, could just be basically a card looking to die to Frostfang Maiden. And so I'm not sure that's the right play. It may just be better to put a card on the board that he actually has to deal with right now. And perhaps if he doesn't find good cards, maybe we can do something here. So for instance, if he has a hand of all levels 1s, which he should have sooner rather than later, he may have to put one in front of the Lurker thinking he'll kill it since it only has 6 health. But we have cards that buff by the boatload. So we have our Invoker here. And we're going to be able to go Tracker into Invoker to buff our Lurker. Oh, but he did it. He got one more movement for that Maiden and just crushed us. Crushed all our dreams. Oh, not an Epidemic. Wow. This has been a very interesting game. We still can go Tracker into Invoker, letting us kill the Maiden. And I think we're going to play Branch Weaver Druid and just fill every spot on the board. That seems like a good idea. Problem is he'll be able to eat our Invoker with his Wind Weaver, and I don't really like that. So I'm looking and thinking about what kind of other options we might have here. I don't think we have another option, though. So I think that's what we're going to have to do, is go Tracker. And I think what we'll do is we'll put him here so he doesn't get to eat the Invoker. If he wants to eat something, he's going to have to eat the second half of the Druid, which isn't that big of a deal. I mean, if he wants to eat a 1/1, fine. It's only half of a card, not a whole card. And one of the reasons why we're thinking this way is we have so much buff in the deck that even having a 4/5, that card could trade efficiently with another card. So we don't really want him to just eat it for free. And here we go. This is why Roar is in the deck, for this exact spot. We are not going to be able to play 3 creatures to the board this turn. Zemus is coming back. He's probably only killing 1 guy. We might not even be able to play something off of our Tracker. It may be Tracker nothing. We may not play any creatures. We may go Siphon Roar. But so now we have these cards to sort of take advantage of this big board that we have. So we'll see what he does, though. I mean, this guy's drawn really well in level 2, but the problem is because he did that, he doesn't have many level 2s in his deck. He's got a pile of 3s and a pile of 1s. So we'll see if he draws his 3s. He does. He draws all 3s. So this guy's incredibly lucky. It can be hard to beat people when they get incredibly lucky. So we're going to have to see if we can string something together here. It can be really frustrating when people get this lucky, but we'll see what we can do. Okay. Our Maiden moves 4. We'll move 3 in a moment. So when they move in lanes, they're going to do 5 damage. It's going to shrink people by 6 attack. This is really, really brutal, actually. I mean, that is a brutal swing right here. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking something like Tracker in 1, Siphon. I'm not really sure who to siphon onto, to be honest. I think the Maiden is the bigger threat here. So we could take her down to 12, buff the Druid up to 6, leaves her at only 6 health, and then just maybe like... The problem is we're really screwed here because he's going to be able to move everything around out of the way. So that Frost Maiden is going to be able to move, and essentially the Frostfang Maiden is going to kill anything. Both of his guys can kill anything 5 health or under. So playing that Lurker is going to be a big problem. So we might have to play Tangle Sprout just to not have it die to movement, which is not what we want to do. I think it might be what we have to do. Wow, it's really ugly. He is drawn like a madman. Like, yeah, we got our level 3, but it has consistent. Oh, boy. Okay. Well, let's see what we can do here. I'm going to siphon this guy. Roar does not really do enough for us. We really need our... So we decided to siphon instead of roaring, basically. And now we're just going to go Sprout. And I guess we're going to go here. Doesn't do much because that Frost Maiden, the Bizarrak Frost Maiden, can just walk over and basically make him irrelevant, but at least can't kill him outright instantly. It's a really dicey spot, though. And again, remember we leveled 2 Brood Queens level 1? Didn't see any on level 2. Our level 2 was really, really problematic. It's going to be tough for us to win this one. We'll see what we can do. Theoretically, he won't draw any more cards at all. It'll be almost all level 1s at this point. He played 6 level 2s, 2 level 1s. So that means he has 6 level 3s in the deck, 2 level 2s, and we just saw 2 of his level 3s. So he only in his whole deck, he has 4 level 3 cards and 2 level 2 cards. That is not a lot of levels cards. So what we're hoping is that he gets punished for his amazing draws in level 2, and he just goes level 1, level 1, level 1, level 1, and we can run him over. We'll see if that works out for us in that. Probably what we're going to end up playing is Lurker to take out one of his guys, and then Thundersaur. I'm a little bit surprised he did that. I thought he might move the Maiden. Okay, no, that makes sense. So he was able to kill our Zemus with just movement. That's pretty strong. And it makes it tough for us because Thundersaur is the play we want to make, and I'm not sure we can make Thundersaur. I think with his guys having so much movement, it's prohibiting us from making the plays we want to make. I think we're going to have to siphon off that Frostfang Maiden. That's just too powerful, having it move all over and destroy our board consistently like this. So I think what we'll end up doing is going Lurker in front of the Frost Maiden, siphon on the Frostfang, and buffing our Lurker to be able to kill the Maiden and live. Though he's playing so much Epidemic that it really makes that play difficult. And now he gets to trade a level 1 for our tracker because of that Epidemic. So we're not in a great spot right here. Another potential play, which I don't like as much, is to go Thundersaur in 5, siphon off on the Maiden, and put it on the Thundersaur. I think that's a bad play. I think we need to just get rid of these cards. I think we need to kill both of these threats, especially since he doesn't have a lot of threats left in his deck. The question is what we siphon. I think we want to siphon the Lurker. The Lurker can kill anything that blocks it. And like I said, if he sticks to level 1 and we have enough buff where we may be able to get over that level 1 creature and have something left behind. Oh my goodness. So he was the one who got all the cards leveled and has all bad cards in his deck, but we're the one that draws the all level 1 hand. So I mean, we have a lot of leveled cards left in our deck to work from. Hopefully this means our next hand will be quite phenomenal. If we see our Zemus 3, maybe our Tangle to wreck some movement card he puts down. Yeah, so I was definitely right that he didn't get a very good hand there. But we're not able to take advantage of it because we also got a really atrocious hand. So we're going to play the tracker. And let's play the Lurker over here. Definitely not cards we wanted to see in that particular spot. Okay, so we did see Zemus and our Tangle. So we are really hoping that he gets a good creature here that makes Tangle worth it. Give me a level 3, big level 3. And what that will also mean is that he doesn't get another card leveled into his deck. Because this was our player level to beat him, where he theoretically should have gotten a lot of bad cards, and he really ended up getting quite a few bad cards, but we weren't able to take advantage of it. So we didn't really get that many of our own power cards. So here we can finally start pushing a little bit. Our choices here, if we want to kill this Predator, are between Tangle Sprout and Tangle. We're going to do Tangle. Tangle's interesting. On level 3, it also gives us health. But you know what? Actually, we're going to do the Invoker. Invoker's really good leveled. So we're going to level him up. And he kills him since he buffs himself. Alright, so that's not so bad. But again, we're coming down to draws. Does he get a monster draw? And the problem we have with Zemus is if he gets a monster draw, we're kind of screwed. Because it's hard to kill Zemus twice in a turn, unless you have Frostfang Maidens that are doing a pile of damage when they're moving around. We already saw he killed a Zemus twice in a turn. So we're really hoping he doesn't get them quickly and that we're able to go Zemus 3 into Tracker, into Thundersaur. Be quite frankly looking pretty good at that point. So we'll see what we can do. Can we get there? We may be able to, people. We may be able to. Oh, Cersei. Interesting. That's one of those cards that is crazy bad under-leveled. Like, it doesn't get much worse than an under-leveled Cersei. You're just kind of like, yeah, here's my Cersei. Don't laugh. Okay, what are we going to do with this Maiden? So annoying. We do have our Howl. So right now, Howl does 16 points of damage. 16 points of damage. Ooh, man. 16 points of damage. I don't think we want 16 points of damage, though. I think what we want to do is fill the board with dudes. The problem is Maiden is really annoying. How much is she dropping them by? 6? Cersei does move. I think what we're going to do is put the Thundersoar, end up putting it in 4. We're going to go here and here. Yeah, we'll do that. And then put Thundersoar down. Pains me a bit not to play Howl. This is why Hermit is so good. I mentioned this card earlier. Like if we miss this and then we get Hermit later with a bad hand, we play Hermit, we get our Howl, and we just do 16. So it's our only Howl. If it goes to player level 5 though, oh my goodness, it's gonna do 20. It would be really amazing. So let's see what we can do here. Double Invoker 2 is pretty strong. 5 buff. So we could have a total of 10 buff on that Thundersoar if it were to live. We'll see what he does. He may do something like battle, move Frost Maiden in front of Thundersoar. If he does, we'll almost certainly overwrite the Thundersoar. We'll see what he does, though. Again, he got a few more cards leveled, so that's better for him. We'll see if he can pull some 3s. He now has to deal with the double Zenith 3. The Zenith 3 used to be unkillable. But now he's actually killable. If you can kill him twice in a turn, he will die. So if you can find some Frostfang Maidens, he could turn this thing around. But getting Zemus 3 on 4.1 was a really good draw for us. So we're happy about that. We had a really terrible level 2, not a very good level 3. But level 4 is going our way a little bit more here. So let's see what our friend Erwin has for us. What can he do? Could certainly move his Frostfang Maiden into 2, kill that tracker, take very minimal damage, and then Cersei would be stuck in 1. If he has another Drake 2, he could plop it down. He could fill lane 5 and kill the tracker, but that's not that great of a play. Yeah, that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to find his Frostfang Maiden so he could get a bunch of movement damage. The problem for him is that we have enough buff in our deck where we're going to actually be able to use that Invoker to buff the Zemus to kill the Frostfang Maiden, which is going to be really bad for him. But then the question is, what do we do with our other play? I think what we end up doing is playing another Invoker and buffing an Invoker in front of the Frostfang Maiden. The Frost Maiden. And killing it. So we'll play both of them, buff lanes 2 and 5, wipe his board entirely, and have 5 guys on the board, or have 4 guys on the board. So that's a pretty darn powerful turn of events. So do that. Then we'll do this, and he's in a little bit of trouble. If he doesn't draw really, really well right here, this game could slip away from him. And additionally, we have, Tracker, into Invoker, buffing, and then maybe, if nothing else, we'll level that Brood Queen. Because into player level 5, it'll be nice having a removal option in the deck. So I think we're going to be okay here. Because even if he pulls a couple Frostfang Maidens here, he can't use them right away, so they're not quite as scary. The problem is he could put one in front of the Thunder Sword, kill it, and then I wouldn't be able to kill his Frostfang Maiden, and it will get a play. We're not afraid of that at all, actually. That's kind of best case scenario for him to have aggressive creatures, because we can fill lanes no problem, and now that means we easily kill them. Whereas if they hadn't been aggressive, that gives him a chance to be able to move them around, which is more difficult for us to manage. So this is almost a dream scenario for us, to be honest. So we're going to end up putting Tracker in 4, Brood Queen in 5, and then buffing the Invoker in 3 to kill Predator, I think. We could do it slightly different. We could try to keep all the lanes full and buff a Brood Queen in either 4 or 3, but I'm not sure we want to do that, actually. I'm thinking about that. Do we want to leave all the lanes full? He could play Scythe. I don't think he has Scythe in this deck, but if he had it, it would be a negative from that regard. And I think we want this Brood Queen to stay healthier, so we have that option of being able to remove stuff later. So we're actually going to let the Invoker die on purpose. We're okay with that. I'll just stick him here and overwrite. Alright. Hopefully this will work out. And we get to do 28 with our Zeniths that he can't handle. I mean, if he was able to keep Frostfangs on the board, then he might be able to handle them. But without them being on the board, like I said, they can't really do much. We got a Tangle. So if he drops, he's like, yes, finally, my level 3. And then we just go, bam, Tangle. So there you go. There is your first competitive deck. Hopefully you'll be able to craft this pretty soon. And it'll give you a pretty good shot to be able to go maybe into the constructed queue and go 2 and 2. I don't think it'll go beyond that, but certainly in the random queue you'll be able to do pretty well, and you'll probably be able to smash your friends as well. So hopefully you had a good time, learned a little bit here, and stay tuned for more videos from Tiny Grimes Games. And make sure to check out my stream where I play all kinds of high-powered decks. So talk to you soon.